Hello friends, how are you all? I hope you all are doing well and I found you all in the good health. So here is a new topic, that is the integrated waste management. I choose this topic so that to make you aware about the environment, that it is the need of the hour. So let's get started. Integrated waste management. So, integrated waste management may be defined as the discipline associated with the control of generation, storage, collection, transfer, and transport, processing, and disposal of solid waste in a manner that is occurred with the best principle of public health, economics, engineering, conservation, aesthetics, and other environmental consideration. So we can say that the integrated waste management system combines the waste streams, waste collection, treatment, and disposal method into a particular waste management system that aims to provide environmental sustainability, economic affordability, and social acceptance for any specific reason. So this management is achieved by combining a range of treatment that include reduction of waste, reuse, recycling, composting, biogasification, etc. So it is integrated waste management is the best mix of treatment to minimize the economic cost and to maximize the environmental protection and social benefits. So these are the functional elements of the integrated waste management. First, the waste generation control, their handling, storage, collection, and after the collection of the waste, it can either transfer and transport to the processing or recovery site or the disposal site. First one is the waste generation. So waste generation encompasses those activities in which the material are identified as no longer being of value and are either thrown away or gathered together for disposal. So the generation rates is the measure of the rates at which the waste is generated, which can be measured by the weight volume analysis, load count analysis, material balance analysis. And the reason for measuring the generation of rate is to obtain the data that can be used to determine the total amount of waste to be managed. And one point I want to mention here is that the waste generation is carried out at the individual level. For example, the waste, like a paper, it is waste from me and I dispose it off. Whether a person who found it useful and he can use it in their art and craft. So it is not a waste for him or her. So the waste generation take place at the individual level. Second is the on-site handling. It is the second function element of the integrated waste management, and the on-site handling refers to the activities associated with the handling of the solid waste until they are placed in the container used for their storage before collection. So here is the table. We know that the on-site handling is carried out at the residential, industrial, agricultural, and the commercial level. So here is the table in which the source of the waste generation is given on the right-hand side, and the person responsible and the equipment facilities required for the handling of waste is given on the right-hand side. So we can analyze that in residential area, resident tenants, building maintenance crew, and janitorial services are responsible for handling the waste, and equipment used for handling the waste are like pneumatic conveyors, collection carts, household compactor. Collection carts we all have seen in our locality, but pneumatic conveyor are the devices which usually used for carry out the bulk material with the help of the pipe by the air pressure. So there are different type of equipment and the person responsible for handling the waste. On-site storage. This is also an important functional unit of integrated waste management in which the solid waste it is stored at or near the source of generation before the primary collection. They are factors that must be considered in the on-site storage. For example, the type of container to be used. It is most important point is depend on the waste is generated. Like for light weighted waste, we can use usually can use like poly bags, paper bags, etc. But in condition of high density waste, we can use a plastic container here given in the table, and galvanized, and if the waste is biodegradable and it is hazardous, then we can use the galvanized storage, like galvanized dustbin for that purpose. It is made up of iron and is galvanized with zinc to prevent the oxidation of the iron. So the container location should also be considered before the storage, and the public health and aesthetics is also a main concern, as public health is related to the storage, as the waste generated can be lead to infestation of the rats and flies, which will ultimately lead to the public health concern, and the aesthetics is related to the odor of the waste. So to keep both these things at maintained level, we use the uh, tight lid containers to prevent those things. The collection method to be used is also an important point to be considered. So collection is a part of the process of integrated waste management. It is a transfer of solid waste from the point of use and disposal to the point of treatment. Unloading of the collection vehicle is also considered is the part of the collection operation. So collection are made at the municipal and the district council, and it is also made by the private firm under the contact with municipal or private residents. So the collection system are of two types, that is the hauled container system and the stationary container system. In the hauled container system, the container filled with the waste is carried out to the disposal site. Whether in the stationary container system, the container is first of all emptied out, then it is then the only the waste is carried to the disposal site. So here are some vehicles and the container type used in the both system are given in this table. You can analyze this table. And the transfer and transport. Transfer and transport are the functional element and or a third functional element, and are refers to the means and facilities used to effect the transfer of waste from relatively small collection vehicle to larger vehicle to transport them over extended distances to either the processing center or to the disposal site. So, in processing of solid waste is the most important in solid waste management, as these techniques are used to improve the efficiency of operation, to recover the resources and to recover the conversion product and energy. That is the main important thing to do. Objective of on-site processing. The first objective is the mechanical volume reduction, that is carried out with the compaction and the compactor machines. Chemical volume reduction, that is carried out by the incineration and the incinerators machine. Mechanical size reduction, that is carried out by the shredding and the pulverizer machine. Component separation, that can be done manually or mechanically. And drying and dewatering. So drying and dewatering is the moisture content reduction, which can be done by convection, conduction, radiation, dryer, rotatory drum dryer, centrifugation, and filtration also, like vacuum filtration, high pressure filtration, low pressure filtration. All these things help in drying and dewatering, as it is important because the processing of the dry solid waste is far easier than the processing of wet dry weight, and also the cost of the dry weight processing is also low. Now the grinding is the grinding by the home grinders that are used for waste prepared from the cooking, serving of food, etc. They cannot be used for bulky items. Sorting. Sorting and the separation of waste paper, cans, glass by hand at household level is one of the most positive way to differentiate or segregate waste for recovery and reuse of material. The sorting can improve the processing of waste and also the recovery of waste. So it is the main thing to do at the household level, which we all can do, and we should do that thing to segregate the waste in different containers so as to ease the process of recovery. Compaction. It involves the reduction of overall volume of waste up to the 60%. The various compactors like stationary compactors, movable compactors, high pressure compactors, low pressure compactor are used for the compaction. Here you can see in the image there is a machine given. It is a compactor, stationary compactor machine. What happened in this? The compactor are placed here, and it activates by the photoelectric cell, or we can say the electric power, and the waste compacted in the form of bales. Okay, bales is actually the short mass of the solid waste are created by this machine and which are loaded into the retail container. When the container bags are full, the compactor shuts down automatically. There is a automation machine also, so it can shut down automatically and the containers are removed and replaced by the fresh one. So this is the mechanism of the compaction. Second one is the incineration. Incineration is the most widely used method for reduction of the volume of waste chemically. It can reduce the chemical also, and it can reduce the volume of chemical as well as the waste. So what happened in this? It is the combustion of waste at very high temperature to convert it into ash, heat and gases. So incineration, it can be used to reduce the original volume of combustible solid waste to up to 80 to 90%. Design of the on-site incineration varies with the type of service, and the incineration process we will discuss. You can see the image of the incinerator here. So it is a modern type of incinerator, and the operation begins with the unloading of the solid waste. Here is the picture of the unloading. So unloading of the solid waste from the collection bucket, or we can say the collection vehicles, is done into a storage bin. It is a storage bin, and the depth and the width of the storage bin are determined by both the rate at which the waste is loaded, are received, and the burning rate. So the overhead crane, this is the overhead crane. So this overhead crane is used to batch load the waste into the charging hooper. It is a charging hooper. So it is used to overload the waste. Overhead crane is used to overload the waste into the charging hooper. In large or incombustible item are removed from the charging hooper, and only the combustible item are allowed to move to the next container. So the solid waste from the charging hooper fell into the stalkers. It is a stalkers where they are mass fired. Here they are mass fired, and air may be introduced from the bottom of the grates. These are the grates, and the air is introduced from it to control the temperature and the burning rate of the furnace. Gases and small organic particles passed into a second chamber that is known as the combustion chamber and burn at the temperature in the excess of 1600 degree Fahrenheit. That is a very high temperature to burn out the waste. So some ash and other particulates are carried through the combustion chamber, and end products of incineration are clean gases and the ashes. The residue from the storage hooper can be taken to a stationary landfill, and the gas exhausted can be treated with the gas treatment equipment, and the energy produced by the incineration can be used to run the generators. So this is the incineration process that is very important to use. But yeah, it generates some kind of greenhouse gases emission, and particulates just release the particulate matter in the environment. So it is somewhat of uh, not accepted by the local people, as they think it produced a lot of pollution. Yes, it is true also, but in today's world there are too many techniques, and the modern incinerator are coming that have the equipment attached to them to treat the gases and the particulate and filter out the particulate matter, as we can see in this picture. Next is the shredding and pulping of the waste. This is used to convert the large size waste into the small pieces, and and various technique are used for shredding are like uh, pulverizer machines are used for it, and grinders are used, hydropulpers, shredders, hammer mills, jaw crushers are used in shredding process. Here is the pulverizer machine given. So first of all, it is the chute. So waste is discarded, discharged into a chute, that discharge into a pulper tank. Sorry, and this is the pulper tank. So that is discharged into the pulper tank. Why it is called the pulper tank? Because the water is added in the pulper tank at a maintained level or a proper level. Okay, the water is added and the pulp is generated by the help of the impalers. So waste are shredded into a pulp by the impeller plates, and non-pulpable elements or like metal, glass are discharged into the collection chamber. This is the collection chamber. So it is discharged in the collection chamber. The pulp and slurry pass through a sizing ring or slurry is then discharged to the dewatering press. This is the dewatering press, and the slurry is discharged in the dewatering press, and into the dewatering press water is extracted and the semi-dry pulp is discharged into another container. So in this way we can if we are able to convert the large size waste into the small pieces with the help of pulverizer machine. Same in the hydropulper, there are some sharp blades that are used to produce the pulp with water. Waste and water are mixed to produce a pulp with the help of the sharp blades. In hydropulper there are shredders, hammer mills and jaw crushers. Second is the recovery of the solid waste. That is the most important point to do in this. Recovery of material by reuse, recycle, and we can recover these. By use of the 3 R's, we can maintain the environment safe. So the components which are more amenable to recovery for which the market exists are present in the waste, like metals, we can say the alloy, which can be used further for various type of in various type of industries to produce a new product. So we can recover those things from the waste in various way in efficient quantity, can be separated for reuse. And the equipment used for this is the flow sheet. Flow sheet has various type of various type of machines attached to it, and the waste is flow on the flow sheet. Waste is allowed to flow on the flow sheets and accelerated. It got accelerated with the further analysis. Like first it is allowed to go into the shredders. In shredders the waste size is reduced. Then after that it is allowed to move towards the uh, drying and dewatering machinery. And after the drying and dewatering machinery, there the dust particle are removed, and after the dust particle are removed they are allowed to flow to the ferrous extracting ferrous extracting machinery. Like for extracting the ferrous type of solid waste we can use the magnets. So then it moves to the aluminium extracting machinery, like then it moves to the other metals. To recover the waste in the flow sheet, it's is the best way to recover. But it can also be done at the household level, as we have as we have discussed earlier and discovered it earlier. So recovering should be carried out at each level, at the household level, as at the solid waste management level, every level. So recovery of conversion products and energy is also another important concern. Combustible product can be converted to intermediate product and then ultimately to energy in a number of ways. There are many ways to convert them into energy, like incineration or combustion in power boilers to produce steam is the most important thing that is used today. And in the increase of it can also be used to increase the temperature of the furnace, and in many factories and industries where the furnace need the high temperature, we can use incinerator temperature to increase the temperature of furnace. We can produce the power with the help of the solid waste by mixing them with the boiler oil and then incinerating them, and we can produce the power also. And second is the pyrolysis process. Pyrolysis or destructive distillation can be used to produce the synthetic gas. Synthetic gas, by the further processing, can be converted into the high grade liquid fuel like the diesel. Biodigestion to produce the methane is another important process of recovery in which the digestion by the microbes or other organism are done to produce the biogas or the methane gas. The main difference between the biogas and the methane gas is that methane is completely methane gas and the biogas consists of the 60% methane, 40% CO2 and H2, 40% CO2 and some H2 also. So it is the biogas which can also use to produce high grade fuels. Composting, we can also recover the recover the fertile soil with the help of the composting. That is the to produce humus. Humus is the fertile soil that provides fertility to the soil. Pyrolysis. Pyrolysis means the chemical decomposition in the presence of high temperature induced in the organic material in absence of oxygen. The point to be noted here is that in pyrolysis, the chemical decomposition in the high temperature is in the presence of high temperature is done, but in the absence of oxygen. But in case of incineration, there was the combustion, that is the chemical decomposition in the presence of high temperature but in the presence of oxygen. In pyrolysis, there is an absence of oxygen. So pyrolysis occur under pressure of an operating temperature above 430 degrees centigrade, and it is of three types like vacuum pyrolysis and hydrous pyrolysis. Vacuum pyrolysis is carried out in the absence of air, and hydrous pyrolysis is carried out in the absence of water. Hydrous pyrolysis is carried out in the presence of water. Advantage of pyrolysis. Yeah, one important point to be noted here is that pyrolysis is a type of destructive distillation. That means in pyrolysis, the decomposition is done in high temperature with the absence of oxygen. That is also called the destructive distillation. So the another term used for pyrolysis is the destructive distillation. So advantage of pyrolysis that it reduces the greenhouse gases emission. Whether in the incineration there is a high amount of greenhouse emission, but in the pyrolysis there is the reduction of the greenhouse gases emission. And it also reduces the waste going to the landfill. And it is used to the chemical decomposition as well as for reducing the volume of the waste. So it can be used to reduce the waste that going to the landfill. It has low risk of water pollution as waste is completely decomposed, so there will be no water pollution if it is disposed of in landfill. As we know that landfill have some other concern relating to the water, relating to the pollution of the water table. We will discuss it later. Then the high recovery rate of the resources. High recovery rate of the resources are very high in the pyrolysis as compared to the incineration. The fuel that is generated by the incineration is very efficient and produce high energy. The minimum rate of health consequences. And the pyrolysis can be used to produce a synthetic gas that can further processed by the help of the removal of the nitrogen, and then it is hydrogenated to form the high quality liquid fuel like diesel, etc. Composting. So another method or treating of the municipal solid waste is composting, a biological process in which the organic portion of refuse is allowed to decompose under carefully controlled condition. So Microbes metabolize the organic waste material and reduce its volume by as much as 50%. That we want to reduce the waste. So the stabilized product is also called compost or humus. It resembles the potting soil in texture and odor and may be used as a soil conditioner and a soil fertilizer. It is the organic fertilizer. So, humus is of dark brown or black color. It has low carbon and nitrogen ratio. That means it has a high nitrogenous level that is very important for the plants to grow. It has high capacity for base exchange and for water absorption that usually needs for the plants to grow. So, composting offers a method of processing and recycling both garbage and the sewage sludge in one operation. Landfills. Land disposal is it is the last and the most important functional element of the integrated waste management, that is the disposal. Disposal should be carried out very wisely so that it does not affect our environment and does not create some other hazardous problem for us. So landfills, land disposal is the most common management strategy for municipal solid waste. Refuse can be safely deposited in the sanitary landfill, a disposable site that is carefully selected, designed, constructed, and operated to protect the environment and the public health. The one most important factor relating to the landfilling is that the buried waste never comes in contact with the surface water and the groundwater that I mentioned earlier. That it is very important to control the uh, um, pollution of the groundwater by the landfill. It should be prevented, and it is the most important factor to be considered. So, in today's scenario, various modern landfills has been created and designed, engineering design are given to them. That requirement include a minimum distance between the bottom of the landfill and the seasonally high groundwater table. So there should be minimum distance between them, and most new landfills are required to have an impermeable linear or barrier at the bottom. There should be a impermeable linear liner and barrier at the bottom, as well as a system of groundwater monitoring wells. So the completed landfill section must be capped with the impermeable cover to keep precipitation or surface runoff away from the buried waste. So bottom and cap liners may be made of the flexible plastic membranes, layer of the clay soil, or a combination of both. So these impermeable liner, what they will do, they will help in the preventing the leachate from the landfills. As we dispose the waste in the landfills, so the biodegradable waste mainly, because of the degradation of the waste, some water will be some organic water, we can say the uh, liquid will release from the landfill in the form of the leachate that will leachate to the ground, that can leachate to the groundwater. We have to prevent it, and in modern landfills it should be monitored, and leachate should be removed time to time, so that to prevent it. And also the gases are released by the biodegradation of the biodegradable waste material. So the biodegradable waste can be separate out from the landfills and should not be disposed of in landfill to minimize the gases production leachate from the landfill. So these all are the aspects of the solid waste disposal that should be considered during the disposal. These are the references I have used. Thank you. I hope you all enjoy this topic. Thank you.